and is being made. So this will be published up on our audio channels, video channel, social media, so that anybody who wants to grab a copy afterwards or has to leave earlier can get in. So hopefully David's sorted. There we are, David, sorted. Right, I'll leave you in peace.
Thank you very much, Steve. Cheers. Right, well, hello, everyone. Apologies for the slight delay here. Let me just share my screen and we'll kick things off. Wonderful. So if everyone can see my screen now, I've only got one screen, so I can't see what time we're at, but I think we're due to make a start anyway, so we'll jump straight into it if that's okay. Great. Ryan, is the session being recorded now?
Yes, it's being recorded.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. And great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We hope the next hour is going to be of interest to yourselves. And we're really excited to launch this webinar series with our partners, Aubergine and Breakthrough Communications. If we could ask for everyone who isn't presenting to mute their microphones, that would be wonderful. So it's going to be a really busy hour of talks and presentations. This is part 2 of Being Effective Council Online. Session 1 was delivered by my colleague Mark from Aubergine, and it was a really exciting session laying the groundwork really for the whole series. Mark went and talked about the importance of using a .gov domain, the things that councils, clerks and councils should be mindful of, and also talked about accessibility as well. I don't know, Mark, are you there? Can you hear me at all? No, he's waiting to jump in, but we'll see Mark a bit later on as well. And then we've got Dan from Breakthrough Communications, who's going to be hosting the third in the series, actually, of the webinar, and that's on Tuesday the 28th, and talking about basically GDPR and communications as well. So a really important one to attend as well. But today we're going to be focusing on cyber essentials and security, and we've got some really exciting colleagues coming to join us to discuss that. So it's going to be a really busy session where we're going to do a bit of welcome and introduction. I'm going to talk very briefly about the security landscape at the moment, why security is so important, and then also talk about the 365 licenses that enable you to really secure your environment and take that worry off your hands, because we know as a clerk you're trying to manage so many different aspects, for going very granular on security maybe isn't ideal. And then we're joined by Adam, who's going to talk about cyber essentials. David Beers from Bridgewater Town Council about his recent cyber essentials certification. And then we're going to do a quick overview of security as well, and some Q&A at the end. It's a really busy period. So my name's David Hall. I'm the Managing Director of Cloudy IT. I started Cloudy 22 years ago, and we are here to primarily serve the local government space, looking after Town and Parish Councils throughout England and Wales. And we're also joined here by Adam Foodie. So Adam, can you hear us? No, he's just waiting to join as well, so we'll leave Adam to get in the room. So Adam's going to do a talk about cyber essentials. He's a cyber essentials expert, and he'll talk about the importance of being secure, what cyber essentials is, and the benefits to councils. And then we're joined by David Mears, who's been with Cloudy Bridgewater for a couple of years now, and we're really excited that he's one of the very early adopters of cyber essentials and the certification that's available as well. So, David, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invite today.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thanks, David. So David will be talking a bit later on his first-hand experience about cyber essentials. And finally, we've got my colleague Charlie Parker, who's one of our cybersecurity experts at Cloudy, but also one of our senior managers as well, actually, and assists lots of our councils with modernising and the security controls that are required as well. Brilliant. Okay, so... Right, so I suppose setting the security landscape at the moment, security is one of those things that just doesn't go away. The goalposts continue to be moved, and the threats continue to increase. So, I've just done a bit of research, and this is, unfortunately, it's very hard to find data on town and parish councils, but certainly across the local government space, there's some really, really interesting statistics, and I think these will filter down to town and parish councils as well. So definitely worth noting. Over 2 million attempted attacks in 2022. They actually think that those are the ones which have been registered. So, in fact, the true figure is about 11 million cyber attacks just on councils in the UK. 10 million has been spent on fees around hackers, legal costs and fines. So very big numbers indeed. And phishing is by far the largest factor. Which are emails coming into your inbox and being clicked in accidentally. So that's the main route in, accounting for 75%. And then we've seen an 85 increase on cybersecurity, software to help combat this. And this is obviously one of the focuses today on the session we're running, to secure your council's data online in the most, I suppose, cost-effective way possible. And also a real important aspect of that is cyber insurance policies, something we're going to talk a bit about later on. Only 23% of councils actually have that, which is actually quite surprising considering the costs involved. And a stat I just pulled yesterday or the day before, Oldham Council, they have 10,000 cyber attacks a day alone, just Oldham, and that was in the BBC only a couple of days ago. So it's quite a really sort of startling numbers here, and it's very important that councils secure their data. Your public bodies, your public facing, you are a target. And, it is important to put some controls in place to secure your data and secure, your residents' information. So some considerations to make for your IT. Obviously, we're seeing councils move to .gov, small parish councils, as well as the large town councils. But why should you move to a platform like Microsoft 365 over your maybe platform from your email provider or hosted provider, such as your website? So choosing the ideal cloud is really important. Now, the Microsoft 365 cloud is a really, what we believe, the best cloud of choice for councils. It offers us a number of different licensed opportunities. Security is built from the ground up. It's, a very well used, very well supported platform, and very cost effective as well. So choosing the right cloud is important, and we believe Microsoft 365 is that cloud of choice, and so do thousands, if not tens of thousands of councils as well. So also, there's no point having the right cloud if it's not set up correctly. So setting up your cloud correctly and having the right license types is important. It can be confusing. There can be lots of different licenses you can have, and having the right license and it's set up correctly is important. It doesn't really add anything extra to the cost, but if it has been set up, then all those features that are under the bonnet, so to speak, can be used to make your life easier. And we're a real big supporter here at Cloudy in terms of councils getting value for money, and obviously in today's austerity that we face as well, ensuring that you are getting value for money is important. So setting it up correctly, using all the features within your license is important. We'll focus today on security, but clearly there are a lot more options around using or getting value for money, and that includes things like productivity as well, which 365 is incredible for. Staff training. Staff training is very important. You can have the most secure platform in the world, but if a member of staff accidentally clicks a link or falls for some sort of scam, a socially engineered scam, which are very common nowadays, then they can bypass the security risks and off they go. And even if you have the best security in the world, around multi-factor authentication and all these other things, they can bypass this with what are called man-in-the-middle attacks. So staff training is important, and with the right systems, the right platforms, you can provide this in a really cost-effective, easy to absorb way. And we'll touch on that a bit later, actually. Cloud, you've got a couple of products and services that are really useful for that. And also what we do believe is keeping things simple. Clearly, IT is a very wide and varying subject and topic. And you can have different clouds, different providers. And to be honest, the more clouds, the more providers, the more opportunity for data leakage. We firmly believe keeping everything in one place secure is the ideal scenario, the solution. And here at Cloudy, we recommend the 365 Cloud, as well as our core partners who are on the call today as well. So a couple of considerations to make when looking at a .gov domain or moving to the cloud. And if you consider all of those things, then hopefully you should have a great outcome, which is a smooth running IT system that works for you as well. So the next slide we've got here are the different licenses that we see with Microsoft 365. And what we have here are the cloud fundamentals, we call them, which are the three main licenses we see from Microsoft, which is the basic, the standard, and the premium license. So we're going to focus on the premium license today. The basic license is usually provided for a counsellor, so emails, cloud storage, cloud apps, very well supported, easy to use platform. But the premium license is what we'd provide to a member of staff. And the premium license, it's obviously more expensive at £18.10, but included in that is actually pretty much all that you need from a productivity, a security, and accessibility requirements. So the premium license has, we have this wonderful wheel, which actually is a bit out of date, which includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. These are all apps you've heard of before, but there are other apps included, planner, bookings, etc. But from a security perspective, it also includes what's called InTune and Azure Information Protection. So those two bits of licenses are for device management. So that will secure your laptop without the need for a server. It will also allow you to push policies and updates as well. And we're going to show you how that works. And, even if it's just yourself, ensuring your device is secure and you're not people aren't able to access it is important. And if it's set up properly with a premium license, it will do that. And if you're a much larger organization, then having it all deployed correctly and managed correctly is very, very key. Also included in premium are two other licenses as well. So those licenses are the Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Defender for Office Plan 1. And those are basically device security and cloud security. Okay, so that's all included in premium. You don't need to go off and buy all these confusing licenses. You just buy one license. So Defender for Office basically protects your emails and your cloud environment, and Endpoint protects your device. And once again, my colleague Charlie is going to show you some examples of how that all works later on. So the premium license is definitely one to consider. It's simple, it's cost effective. You won't need an antivirus, you won't need cloud storage or protection. It's all included in Business Premium. I forgot to actually mention at the beginning, if anyone does have any questions, please do put them in the chat. And we'll come back and we have some Q&A at the end and we can loop back to those later on. Or I'm sure Charlie will put in the chat and answer that question if he can. So, those are the main licenses we're seeing councils use, and happy to answer any questions around them as well. So we should be joined by Adam. Hopefully Adam's got in the room. Adam, are you here at all?
I am indeed, and I'm not on mute, which is probably the first time I join one of these virtual calls. And
if you join a few minutes late, it puts you on mute automatically. Well, brilliant, Adam. Thanks for joining us. We obviously our approach here at Cloudy is to bring in quality partners, experienced partners, and we're very proud to be working with yourselves at CyberSmart to assist with basically ensuring the correct controls and adoption of security is provided to our councils. And CyberSmart's an excellent company because it allows us to really ensure that when we provide you with a certificate, a government endorsed certificate, you will be meeting the controls that have been put in place by the government to mean you meet a standard. And Adam's going to explain a bit more about that and how that works. So Adam, I will control the slides. If you just let me know when you want me to move to the next slide. Okay, here we go.
And thank you, David. Just to let everybody know, I'm kind of a cyber essentials assessor myself. So a lot of my work here at CyberSmart is helping clients, achieve a good level of cybersecurity and embed, certain cybersecurity controls, in place. David's talked a little bit about kind of the challenges, that organizations and councils have when it comes to cybersecurity, handling data protection. I'm going to focus more specifically on cyber essentials and how that can kind of bridge the gap for a council and build that cybersecurity posture throughout the business. And we'll start really with discussing what is cyber essentials. And David gave you a kind of sneak peek, but ultimately what it is a cybersecurity framework. It was launched back in 2014, which is quite scary now because we're coming up to kind of 2024. And it was launched and developed, created by the UK government. And really what it was there for is designed to help organizations show their commitment to cybersecurity and data protection, and really emphasizing there whilst keeping, it simple. Back in 2014, even if you're an organization, let's say, and you wanted to take cybersecurity seriously, unless you kind of had a wealth of technical expertise internally, you wouldn't really know what you would need to do to kind of protect yourselves. And I compare cyber essentials a little bit like an MOT, and it will make a little bit more sense when we move, throughout the deck. But ultimately, when you take your car into the garage, you don't know, unless you're a kind of mechanic and you understand cars, you don't know really what you would need to check to make sure it's safe and secure and reliable enough to be on the road with other drivers. And that's ultimately kind of what cyber essentials is. And it's very much that solid foundation in cybersecurity. It's the minimum really organizations should be doing to protect themselves and most importantly, really other people as well. Hence the name, cyber essentials. It's the essential controls you need to put in place to defend against incidents and cyber attacks. There are two versions. The first one is cyber essentials, and what that is a self-assessment. And what you would need to do with the support of Cloudy as well would be working your way through the control areas and answering questions around what you do as a business when it comes to handling data, managing your infrastructure, managing your network, managing your user devices, and then also drilling down to kind of more of the people-based controls within cybersecurity, like having the correct policies, password policies, but also making sure staff know how to spot cybersecurity risk with training and staff awareness as well. So cyber essentials basic, or the self-assessment, is that questionnaire. And what you would do is you'd go onto the portal and you'd work your way through the question set, answering what you do for each control area. In the next slide, we're not ready for it yet, we'll go through the control areas and I'll kind of explain what they are, what you would need to do, and provide some guidance around them. But ultimately for cyber essentials, what you do is answer, you self-assess. And what then CyberSmart will do is look at your responses, look at the framework, look at the scheme. And if your responses meet the requirements of that question, you would pass through. And that's kind of the self-assessment of the Cyber Essentials Basic. What there also is Cyber Essentials Plus. And the process to obtain Cyber Essentials Plus would be to complete the self-assessment, have it kind of verified and marked by CyberSmart. And once that's all signed off, you can book your Cyber Essentials Plus audit. And really, that is the major difference. When you're self-assessing, you may miss stuff. You may not be fully aware of the risks out there to the business. Whereas what Cyber Essentials Plus does, we actually audit the controls internally. So we'll check your user devices. We'll scan across your networks looking for risk or vulnerabilities. And really, if you handle sensitive data or personal data, we would very much recommend Cyber Essentials Plus, because it's the only way really to impartially look at your organization, look at your infrastructure, look at your ways of working, and actually test, are we ready to defend against cyber attacks? Or, do we have a threat, or are we susceptible to certain incidents and things like that as well? So Cyber Essentials Basic, or the self-assessment, is what you self-assess, and Cyber Essentials Plus is the audit that CyberSmart will do for you as a business. And next slide, please, David. So we talked about kind of the self-assessment, and we briefly mentioned some of the control areas. What I've done here is kind of list the 5 control areas as part of Cyber Essentials. And I'll try and explain as much as possible kind of what these mean and what does this mean for you as an organization, and a council as well. So the first control areas is going to be firewalls. And this is basically your boundary firewalls and your internet gateways. So if you think of your internal network for kind of office-based staff or home-based staff, It's basically protecting what's coming in and out of your network. And is the traffic coming in, in and out, the right level of access? Is it the right people getting in and out, basically? For your offices, it's going to be things like hardware firewalls, how they've been set up, how they've been configured. When it comes to your home workers, they'll be relying on their software firewall. So with Windows, with MacBooks and things like that, they have a software firewall, which is a default, and that basically protects your network from criminal attackers and things like that. The second control area is secure configuration, and this ultimately really means how you've set up and configured your computer devices, your network devices, your cloud services to reduce vulnerabilities and only provide necessary services. So when you're setting up a user device, you don't need software you don't use. They must have things like anti-malware, firewalls in place. So just making sure all of the staff's user devices, network devices have been set up and configured in a secure way. If not, it could be kind of the exploitable, what a kind of an attacker could exploit and use for a larger part of an attack. The third control area is user access control, and ultimately it's important to keep access to your data and services to a minimum. And this is kind of looking at the internal attacks, so what can happen if somebody exploits your business from an internal perspective, and what access they can see. And a good use case for this could be kind of the access you have to cloud services for your staff. If somebody works in HR or somebody works in finance, do they need access to all of your cloud services? Or should they be limited to cloud services that they really need for their day-to-day job? Is the software that they're using day-to-day, is it required for their role? All this sort of stuff. And it's basically the users you work with, whether it's kind of your customers or your partners, your stakeholders, or your staff, and just limiting the access they have to certain systems and certain data as well. The fourth point is malware protection, which kind of David mentioned, as part of the kind of 365 suite. You must have anti-malware, installed across your devices, across your endpoints, as it's really the only way to protect yourself against malicious software, which will, again, seek access to your files, your data on your systems. And the final one is patch management, a bit of a techie word, but ultimately this means you keep your devices and your software up to date. So it could be operating systems, it could be applications. And if you're running old software or old operating systems, these will contain known vulnerabilities. And all it takes really is a cyber criminal or a cyber attacker to Google search a certain vulnerability, and they'll be able to exploit it very quickly. So when Microsoft, for example, releases a new patch or a new update, it is very, very important to kind of, deliver or, push out them updates, as quickly as possible. And this is, again, something InTune, as part of kind of that 365 suite, can very much, help with as well. But you need to make sure all of your software, all of your operating systems are up to date. So just to kind of recap the controls again, it's firewalls, protecting your internet and the boundaries between the external network, the World Wide Web, and your internal networks, making sure all of your devices have been set up in a safe and secure way, making sure the access to data and certain services for users is limited and only relevant for the job requirements that they have, making sure all of your endpoints have adequate anti-malware protection installed, and you're making sure that your devices are up to date, safe, and secure as well. And next slide, please, David. So we've talked a lot about kind of what Cyber Essentials is, what the process is. And what we'll do now is go through really what are the benefits of having Cyber Essentials. And the first bullet point here is pretty obvious. It's that enhanced cybersecurity. You're embedding security controls throughout the business, and that will protect you against cyber threats. There's been a few studies that universities have done to prove and evidence the benefits of Cyber Essentials, and by purely embedding them controls throughout the business, you're going to defend against 80 to 88% of cyber attacks, full stop. The second one is around kind of legal and regulatory compliance, and it means really if you can handle data protection seriously and cybersecurity seriously, it's going to help with any legal or regulatory requirements. I think data protection, for example, is a really obvious one, to call out, but there might be other standards or other compliance requirements that you might have internally. Trust and credibility. This is a little bit like why I use the kind of MOT analogy. It's difficult for an organization really to prove to partners, stakeholders, contractors, the public, that they take cybersecurity seriously. And that is one of the benefits of Cyber Essentials. You have your certificate, you have your BIP badges. The government have a website where you can search any organization in the UK and check if they have Cyber Essentials. So it's a really easy way to build that trust and that credibility, and ultimately that you take cybersecurity seriously. Data protection. So in the name, it's Cyber Essentials. So it's all about kind of what cybersecurity you have in place. But ultimately, cybersecurity, what is the most important asset to a business? It's your data. And by embedding good cyber hygiene and good cyber controls, that's going to safeguard your sensitive data and critical assets. So yes, it's called cyber, but it very much helps with your data protection requirements as well. It's cost effective. I think that's a really important one to call out. There's loads you can do when it comes to cybersecurity. There's loads of tools. There's loads of vendors out there. But what Cyber Essentials does is look at kind of the essential controls that you must have in place. And I think that's really important with budgets, and spend as well. If you achieve Cyber Essentials compliance, you also get access to free cyber insurance. And I always talk about how beneficial Cyber Essentials is, but there's always a risk out there that an incident can still happen, even if you're compliant and covered with the control areas. And that means if you have an incident and you're compliant with Cyber Essentials, that insurance provider will provide that incident response for you and bring you back to where you were before the incident. So protecting against cyber attacks, protecting your sensitive data. But if the worst ever does happen, you have an insurance provider to call on and to support you and how you would kind of manage that incident as well. Supply chain assurance, so a little bit kind of overlap and similarity with the trust and credibility bullet point, but ultimately provides that assurance for your supply chain and any kind of supply chain you're a part of as well, that you take security seriously, you handle data protection, effectively as well. And the final kind of benefit and the bullet point is around incident response prep. I can never say that word, preparation. And ultimately, it means you're ready to proactively approach. If you have an incident, you're ready to defend against it. Whether it's to manage it internally, use the insurance provider, use the incident response, but you build policies, whether it's things like disaster recovery, incident response policies. You've built your business in a secure way where you're ready to manage incidents if they ever do happen. And you've built that process internally of what you would need to do as a business if you encountered, let's say, a phishing email, or you were exploited with things like ransomware and things like that as well. So yeah, I won't recap each kind of bullet point, but these are very much the benefits of having Cyber Essentials. But obviously the most important one is to defend against cyber attacks in the first place. And next slide, please, David. Yeah, this is kind of the final bullet point, and it's a little bit of a disclaimer, and it links up with kind of the analogy I used at the start of the kind of presentation around the MOT. Cyber Essentials, a little bit like an MOT inspection, is basically a valuable point-in-time compliance check. It's an annual certification. So once a year, you'll work with Cloudy, you'll work with CyberSmart, and we will check that your business, is safe, secure, and you handle cybersecurity effectively. However, just like a vehicle requires daily maintenance to stay roadworthy, the cyber controls must be actively managed and monitored day in, day out. Again, a tool like InTune could very much help with this. But all of the benefits we looked at on the previous slide, defending against cyber attacks, trust and credibility, it's all dependent really if you're managing security day in, day out. If all you do is align the controls for Cyber Essentials when your audits come in or when it's due, once a year, you're not going to reap and receive, the benefits that are there. So just a slight disclaimer, that's kind of what Cyber Essentials is. We check you once a year, but it's up to you, as a business to make sure all of the relevant controls we looked at previously, patch management, secure devices, firewalls, anti-malware, are in place day in, day out, rather than, once upon a time. And that's the final slide for me. So I'll hand you back over to kind of David and the team. But like David mentioned a moment ago, any questions, pop them in the chat and we can kind of tackle them as part of the Q&A. But thanks everybody for joining, and yeah, hope you enjoyed.
Brilliant. Adam, well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Always great to hear from yourself and, how to really, I think, explain it, the whole process and why it's so important, really. And, we believe here at Cloudy it is very important. We've always taken it seriously, and to work with a partner like yourself is so important. And it's great, actually, because, we've audited quite a few organisations now included. We put them through the process I think it was last year or this year, Charlie, wasn't it? And having the right platform really enables that process to be, I would say, a breeze. We already set our councils up who aren't Cyber Essentials certified with all the controls in place. It's more a case of when we work to get them that certification, to really just add the bit around the policy and some of the other aspects we might not necessarily do around firewalls and stuff like that. But we know it's so important to get it right, because there can be some huge impacts to a council should you not have it correct, go into the ICO, etc., having to manage that reputational damage. And I think this might be a good chance just to bring Daniel in from Breakthrough. And Daniel, you deal with councils who face this on a regular basis, and what advice do you have for councils should this happen?
Absolutely. Thank you, David. First of all, thank you to Adam for everything he's just talked through. I would happily encourage all parish and town councils. It's not just the bigger councils, it's smaller parishes too that need to do this stuff. It really is. And as David said, we need to think about reputation management. What happens if things go wrong, both in terms of how the community at a local level perceives you, but also the impact in relation to the Information Commissioner, who do have the power to enforce, to issue fines, etc. Next month, in the third of these webinars, I'm going to be talking about the UK GDPR. And actually, this bridges really nicely because, as many of the clerks who are here will know, one of the principles of the UK GDPR is that data will be processed effectively, securely, and that data controllers, i.e. councils, will be able to demonstrate their accountability with the various data protection principles, one of 7, is security. So actually, Cyber Essentials is an important piece of that jigsaw, because councils need to be able to demonstrate what proactive and preemptive measures they've taken to deal with issues before they arise. It's not just, we often get called into councils to when things go wrong, particularly when there's a data protection breach, for example, we go in and help. But also councils more often call us in now preemptively, not on this side of the fence, but actually looking at all the strands of data protection and council processes, and we review their policies, processes and risk assessments. And we'll talk about that next month. But it's really important, if Cyber Essentials is new to you and you're thinking, well, we haven't got this, you need to look at it. You need to talk to Cloudy IT and CyberSmart, and as we'll hear in a minute, there are from Bridgewater, there are huge benefits to having gone through that process. But again, linking it back to the legal obligation thing, all councils, large and small parishes, have an obligation under the UK GDPR. You have many obligations under the UK GDPR, one of which is to demonstrate your accountability to the principles of data protection, which includes security, which in turn includes data and cyber security. Getting this right is really important, and it's so much better to get it right before things go wrong. David, back to you.
Great. Cheers, Daniel. So absolutely, we're trying to make your life's easier. We know it's a very stressful job. You've got a lot going on, and knowing this has been done correctly is important. So thank you, everyone. A moment ago, Adam, you'll stick around, and Dan as well for any questions. But I'm really delighted actually to be joined by David Mears, who's a clerk at Bridgewater Town Council, and has kindly offered to come along and speak about his experience of going through the process. And also just a bit about clerking really in general and security. And David, congratulations. I think, did you just hand your dissertation in, or you've just actually qualified with your brand new qualification as well?
So I just submitted my final module for my community governance degree, level 6, and I'm awaiting my marks over the next couple of weeks.
Brilliant.
But I feel like I've got a new lease of life now.
Yeah, of course.
I know some of those on the call, actually. Sarah Jeffries is one of them, who's also gone through this turbulent time of doing community governance. But thank you very much, David. Okay, so some of you probably know me anyway, but I'm Bridgewater Town Council in Somerset. We're a relatively large local council, but we have not exactly many councillors. We've only got 16 councillors, and they represent 7 wards in the town. We're a highly political council. We have Labour dominated, with only 3 Conservative councillors, so very, very political. We have 20 officers at present, but we're expanding that next year, potentially nearly doubling that as well, because we've gone unitary in Somerset this year, and Somerset is the second largest unitary council in England, and they've got massive financial pressures, and I'm sure we're all very well aware of those with our principal councils at the moment. We provide several key services to our local community, everything from a local pantry to cemeteries to allotments. We work with various different sort of contractors as well in delivering things like Christmas lights, electrical contracts across our properties as well. Our IT is hosted by Microsoft 365. So we moved over actually to cloudy IT last year. And what a difference we have now understood. Actually, I think we've seen the benefits of moving to Microsoft Office 365 far better than the Office 2010 version that we were using. So much more smoother to use, and we can actually operate more efficiently now internally and also externally with our customers, our clients, and also the general public. All our councils have council issued devices as well, and that ensures that they access their council emails on secured devices, so we can lock them down at any time if they happen to lose their device, or potentially, you know, if they leave the council as well. We hold lots of personal data, but this is no different to any other council. Even the smallest council holds data, and I think that's what is critical here. All councils employ a clerk, or at least they should be employing a clerk. So they'll have personal data on that clerk. You have personal details of your councillors as well, their home addresses, their personal contact details. You'll have, if you've got cemeteries, you'll have personal data there. If you have allotments, you've got personal data there as well. And that, I think, is absolutely critical here. Yes, we're a larger council. We probably hold obviously a lot of data compared to some councils, but all councils hold personal data. At Bridgewater as well, we've got multiple projects. So small projects range from £1,000 right the way up to £4 million at the moment in terms of major refurb of 2 of our venues in the town, the Arts Centre and our town hall as well. And our budget at the moment is 1.6 million, and that will be growing to just over 2 million next year. Don't know, David, if you wanted to ask some questions or anything at all.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to. I mean, obviously, David, it's been a pleasure working with you at Bridgewater, taking you through that modernisation journey. Now, you know, security can often get overlooked in a way because it's not something you have to deal with on a regular basis. Everyone thinks it just works in the background, but it doesn't. You have to turn it on, you have to enable it, and you do have to monitor it to a degree. You know, what made you choose to go to get the Cyber Essentials certification, and how was the experience? I'm really interested to know.
Okay, I mean, the reason that we decided that we needed to go to be Cyber Essentials certified was actually because we do a lot of stuff. Obviously, already it's through the cloud, but of all the stuff we use, we got, you know, access to online banking. We've got so much data with our staffs, but also our contractors with our projects that we're going through at the moment. We've got multiple contractors, and they were actually asking us, do we recognise an Cyber Essentials certification scheme? This is something we were aware of, but also as well, we did have a situation only at the start of this year. Unfortunately, our systems through use stopped this, but we did have a virus come through on an email, and I think that really made me think, you know, we need to be doing more here, because fortunately, that member of staff that saw this email come through, she was like, this doesn't look right to me. So she did the right thing. She alerted me. She contacted the help desk. But actually, if it was potentially a couple of other members of my staff, they probably would have just clicked on it. And then goodness knows what would have happened, you know. And we were getting a lot of phishing emails as well. You know, you open up the email, kind of like what you get in your own sort of, you know, personal mailbox, you know. Hi, Dave. Just to let you know, I'm really struggling at the moment. I need £100. Can you send some over to me? Many thanks, Councillor Smith. And you think, really? That doesn't sound right. And then look at the sender item. It says Councillor Smith, but when you open it up, it's not. You know, it's a gobbledygook email address. But it's basically the reason why we've gone through this is to make sure that our systems are robust, but also the training as well with the councillors and with the staff as well. But you said about the journey, if you're happy with me to talk about that.
Of course. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Journey was interesting. I mean, I thought, if I'm honest with you, I thought we were really robust, but it did pick up a couple of things. So our router in the office was was not up to date. It wasn't receiving updates, and that router is only, I thought it was only 3 years old, but actually it's 5 years old. It's one of the recent things that I had installed, I thought, but it wasn't that recent because it's 5 years ago when I first started. And that makes me think actually about our home devices as well. We all, if we're working from home, are our home devices receiving updates? Are they secure? And another thing as well, with one of my councillors, so councillors have access to their council email addresses on their phones. Staff, that's not a problem. We all have council issued devices. They're kept up to date. They're the most recent iPhones. But one of my councillors, I think it's actually on Antiques Roadshow this weekend, they had such an archaic smartphone, an iPhone 6 or something or other, operating an iOS 8 or whatever. I don't know. Is that still in existence? Well, yes, it is, but it's not receiving updates. So again, that actually would have failed the process because they're not receiving updates. So their data on that phone was not secure. They access their personal bank accounts on that device, personal emails. It's quite scary, actually, David, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, it can be, and the sort of hackers out there, they tend to sort of try and access the low hanging fruit, and and I think, like you said, it shone a bit of a spotlight on your technology, and certain these little sort of gaps in it that always can occur, but this now you meet the measures put in place. You can go to the government's website, type in Bridgewater Town Council, and they come up there with a certificate. So you can prove to your councillors, to the community, that you meet the requirements. And as you mentioned, though, this isn't just for large councils. This is affordable for smaller ones as well. We do have packages across the board. Clearly, there's a cost involved, but the cost versus what could happen should something go wrong, and also just the knowledge that it's been done properly, is actually quite a small figure compared to the outcomes as well. So, David, finally, any advice to clerks who are looking for looking to increase security across the board? I mean, I would probably necessarily say you don't have to speak to Cloudy IT. We're a Microsoft partner. We work closely with them. Speak to your own IT provider. Challenge them on aspects of it, because I think it's important that all councils keep their data secure and they aren't subject to any sort of data leakage, which could, as Dan mentioned, cause some serious reputational damage. Any advice, David?
I think the one thing I would say and it's relevant for all councils. I think if you just get a scrap bit of paper, just write down on that scrap bit of paper the software that you use. Where do you store those passwords? Also write down your IT provider, whether you work from home. So who's your IT provider? How old's your router? Just look at those things. Do you access it on your mobile devices? Ask your council, do they access on their mobile phone devices their emails? Have a look at that. And I bet you'll be so surprised, because if you look at all the websites that you visit, whether it's shopping, whether it's Amazon, it could be Viking, your website login credentials as well for your council website, where do you store those? If they're actually on your device and that's not secure, you may think it's secure, but actually, as we discovered here, actually some of our systems, although they were tight and secure, there was still loopholes there. And absolutely. I think that's a critical thing. And it doesn't matter what size you are, you get, spam emails, as we call it, don't we, on our personal emails. Those are potentially ones, if you click on them, will potentially hack into your own personal devices. So this isn't reserved for the larger councils. This is absolutely, I think, integral to for all of us, really, and especially our personal lives as well.
Yeah, we should all take security seriously, because when something does happen to you, it's an awful feeling, and we hate having to sort of deal with these situations with our council customers. And well, wonderful, David. Thanks so much for coming along to join us. It's gone incredibly fast, actually. I'm looking at the time here. We've only got about 10 minutes left, but we want to do some Q&A at the end. And, we're looking to rerun this series, actually, after the new year. So maybe, David, you can join us again and sort of pick up the conversation then, I suppose. But, David, thanks so much for joining us. Really great to hear that you're happy with the new certification that you've got at Bridgewater. And obviously, it's an exciting period for yourself, not just personally, but for the council as well as you grow. So, yeah, really exciting times.
Thank you. And a huge shout out to Charlie as well. He's so patient. He really is. So fair play to him, and thank you for all your help as well.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks, David. So, David, thanks ever so much. You've pivoted quite nicely to Charlie, actually. So, Charlie, Charlie sort of holds our customers' hands through the certification process, it can be considered to be quite a painful process, and it used to be, I suppose, actually. But Charlie, we work really hard through our Microsoft environment to make it as pain-free for our customers as possible now, don't we? So, do you want to just introduce yourself and maybe just show a couple of the things that 365 does in the background when set up correctly?
Yeah, perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie. I'm the migration manager at Cloudy IT, but I also do a lot of the cybersecurity piece here as well, including Cyber Essentials, which Adam was taking you through earlier. Just kind of carrying on from what David Mears was saying, it can be a little bit overwhelming, I think, because there's so many different aspects of your IT that you have to think about when it comes to becoming Cyber Essentials certified. It can be a little bit, if you thought about your router, your firewall, if you thought about your councillor devices, your device, there's how safe are the emails coming in and out of your system. There's a whole host of things to think about. But Microsoft do make it relatively straightforward with the licenses that they provide. I know Hilary had a question earlier regarding the difference between standard and premium, and David touched on the 3 license types that we see within councils at the moment, which are basics, which are just for councillors. You have standard licenses, which just provide an Office install and an email account. There's no additional security included with that particular license. And then with Business Premium, it's what you get with Business Standard, but it's the bolt-ons that you get that enable the advanced security features within Microsoft. They are there available to everybody, but they're locked. As soon as you purchase the Business Premium license, those areas within the back end of Microsoft, they become available then, and your IT provider can then turn them on and set up your devices accordingly. So I'm just going to take you through a couple of different elements that are unlocked with the premium license. Also with a license called Enterprise Mobility and Security E5, so EMS E5 for short. So I'll take you through that license type as well. As David said, Business Premium includes Defender for Endpoint Plan 1, which is basically antivirus. It includes Managed Antivirus, which is Microsoft Defender. So Microsoft Defender comes pre-installed on all Windows 10 and 11 devices. A lot of the features actually are turned off by default or not configured. So that needs to be done either by each person manually, or if you use Microsoft InTune, which is Microsoft's device management software, you can then manage that centrally, which is what we do for all of our customers. Another part of the Business Premium license is Defender for Office Plan 1. So this is advanced email filtering. So this touches back on the phishing emails, and that being a big target for potential hacks. People just keep firing emails and hoping eventually someone clicks that link that takes them through to a website that looks just like Microsoft's website. They pop in their details, and then someone straight into their email account. So that's also included in there, and there's things in there for anti-spam, anti-malware, anti-phishing, and there's also there's safe links and safe attachments. So every email that comes into your mailbox or the mailbox of anyone who works for the council, any link in that email will be scanned by Microsoft, and the tool goes 4 or 5 clicks deep into the website, and it will look for the links on the website as well to see if they're malicious. And it'll do the same thing with any attachment that's sent through to you as well. So any PDF that might have a link attached in there, anything malicious, everything is scanned. And you, as the end user, you won't notice any difference in delivery speed. Everything comes straight through to your mailbox as normal. Okay, so let me just show you the back end for now then. So let me just share my screen. So I think Adam and David both touched on this. So Microsoft InTune is Microsoft's device management piece. And basically,
Charlie, I'll just add, it's very small to read. I don't know if anyone's finding. I don't know if you can zoom in just slightly. Just make it a bit nicer. Yeah, thank you, Charlie. Cheers.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Microsoft InTune. So InTune is the device management tool. So what happens is we get a laptop, whether that's or a tablet for a councillor or a staff member, and we will enroll that device into Microsoft's cloud, but it's your portion of that cloud. Everything is locked down, all the data and access to devices is just for your particular council. And some of the important things are keeping applications up to date, making sure that when you autoplay is disabled, so that when you plug a USB into your computer, it doesn't automatically just run whatever is on that USB. There's things like making sure your device has BitLocker encryption, so that if it's ever stolen, somebody can't take the hard drive out of it, plug it into their computer and take all of your data off of it. So there's a whole host of things that have to be thought about in order to make your devices secure. And with Microsoft InTune, we put the policies in place that from day one, as soon as that device is enrolled, everything is turned on and you can't turn it off. It's only the IT provider that can turn that off for you. So it's instant peace of mind. As soon as that device is enrolled, you then become compliant, and this is much what happens at Bridgewater. At Bridgewater, all the staff have computers, and all of the councillors have laptops. And there's an application that is pushed by CyberSmart, which has certain thresholds that each device has to meet. And using InTune, the devices at Bridgewater, nearly all of them met it, and it was only a handful, and I believe that's where the device hadn't been used for a while, so updates hadn't been performed. But as soon as that laptop was turned back on again, the laptop updated, and they then met the requirements to be Cyber Essentials certified. So that's InTune. I'm very conscious of the time, so that's a very
Charlie, just to confirm,
brief,
I won't do my bit, okay? So, but I'm conscious of time as well. But I won't do the sharing stuff. But you focus on your bits.
Okay, perfect. So things in here that we can do then is to make sure that your device is always up to date. So that's the OS on the machine, but it's also your browser being up to date, Office being up to date. I'm sure most people think that their laptop just updates anyway. You get a pop-up occasionally. You get the annoying thing where you go to close your laptop down and it says you have to restart and update before you can turn it down and turn it off. And that happens once every so often, but that should be happening weekly. All of our customers will get a pop-up on their computer at least bi-weekly, but more often than not weekly, to say you're required to restart your device, and that will be for patch management, so security updates, and also just for general feature updates and things like that. And that covers not just the operating system, but Office and your web browser. So that's what's included with the business premium license. One thing that I would like to touch on is the ability to audit all of the information that's stored within your 365 environment. So as part of a license called EMS E5, which I touched on earlier, it unlocks the ability to audit your environment. And what I mean by this is that every single activity that is performed by a member of staff or a councillor or a partner that you've given access to your 365 environment, that is all audited. So that's from clicking on an email, just opening the email, replying to the email, going into a folder, reading a file, editing a file, sharing that file, printing it, downloading it, absolutely everything you can think of. Every single thing is recorded. And what you can do is you can come back in here. So if there's ever anything internally that you're worried about, that someone's got access to something and gone in and looked at something that they shouldn't have, or if you do unfortunately have a security breach and you want to go back through and see, okay, they got into the account, and I want to see what they went to go and look at, you can then perform that action, or the IT provider can perform that action, and they can come in here, they can select the different date range that they want to go back through, and there is a whole list of activities in here. You've got access file, checked in a file, copied the file, deleted a file. I can scroll for the rest of this webinar down these options. There are hundreds of them. So absolutely everything is audited. We did one yesterday just so I could show you what the results look like. So we did one here from October the 1st, October the 30th, for files accessed and mailbox logins. And if I click on that, I can show you what this looks like. So you can see here, this is our demo environment called Cloudy Council. But you can see the user here is Clark at Cloudy Council. They accessed a file. This file is the name here, and that's where the file is stored. It also has the IP address, so you can see. So that should show the person's either home or the office IP address. But again, if there's been a data breach and it's been from America or somewhere in Europe, wherever it might be, that IP address will show there. So you can say for definite, the person who accessed the account viewed these files or signed into this mailbox or sent that email. Yeah, so
Charlie, do you want to move on to e-discovery? Sorry to really speed things. I've got about 4 minutes left.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, cool. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No problem. So lastly on here, we have e-discovery. So this is great for freedom of information requests. So what this does is I'll show you now. So I can create a case. And if I call it FOI Clark here, save. So you basically create a case. So someone emails in to you and says, I want all the information that has my name in it, files and emails, whatever it might be. You can come into here and create a case, and you can search basically your entire Office 365 tenant. So let me show you what that looks like.
We might not have the time to do a full search. You might do one of those Blue Peter moments.
So I will, so I will go back to that and just show you. So in here, I can set where it will search. So you can put in, I wanted to search all mailboxes, or you can choose specific mailboxes, and then you can say all of your document libraries. So this will search absolutely everything, all emails, all files and folders stored on the system. And I can click next, and then you can select the keywords that you wanted to search for. So you can put in an address, someone's name, a phrase, or all of those things, and then click next, and it will perform a search for you. Once you perform that search, so we did one yesterday, like David says, the Blue Peter moment, we've got a location search here. So we searched everything within the tenant that has the address 8 home ground in it. And if I come into that here, you can see that it searched everywhere, and it's found 440 items in the Office 365 tenant that contained that phrase. And 105 of those were in a mailbox. And then you can review the samples, or you can just download the report, and it will give you a PST file. So it will give you a whole file containing all of the emails, which you can then pass on to the person making that request, or you can review that yourself. Again, conscious on time, that's it in a nutshell, really. So I'll pass it back to David.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie. And sorry to rush you, mate. We just wanted to show really a snapshot of what is possible within the environment set up correctly, as mentioned. And let me just share my screen now, and we'll go back to the presentation to wrap things up. So there we go. Right, brilliant. Well, thanks, Charlie. And I think, some really useful features in there for clerks. Again, an information request come through. Daniel, we haven't got long, but, you recommend someone speaks to Cloudy when this happens, because this is so invaluable, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll talk more about things like SARS next week.
Excellent. That's great. Thanks, Daniel. So I know there's been a lot of chat in the chat, and my colleagues have been replying there. If anyone does have any questions, though, after the webinar, please do get in touch. We'd love to assist and provide any advice you might have. That would be really good. Has anyone got any questions at all that they want to sort of ask on the webinar at all? Excellent. Okay. Well, please do put them in the chat or reach out afterwards, as I mentioned. Finally, Cloudy are really proud to, with our partners, Aubergine, Breakthrough, and also industry partners, are sponsoring the Practitioners Conference in January. So really exciting. And we are having our Experience and Innovation Suite that we've put on to demonstrate all the wonderful tech, a bit like an Aladdin's cave. So we've got partners like Owl Labs who are going to be there, their new equipment, so great for broadcasting meetings. Obviously, sad news that it didn't quite get put through a couple of days ago with the government, and back to square one, I know. But also other partners like Decisions, and we've just got a space for the practitioners to come in, have a chat, play with the technology, tablets, broadcasting equipment, everything. So we'd love to see you at practitioners if you're there. If not, just get in touch. We'd show you anyway. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming to join us today. Apologies, we've run out of time. It flies by as always. I think we are going to host another session, and I did want to demonstrate some other bits that we didn't have time to do today around how you share documentation securely. But otherwise, thank you for joining us, and thank you to our guests for joining as well. We really do appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to come and speak. So David, Adam, thank you so much. And if anyone's got any questions, please do reach out afterwards. But otherwise, all the best and see you around. Cheers.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Cheers.
Great day.